Hello everyone. This is the day 15 of the 30 days of identity foundations. Hello everyone. This is the day 15 of the 30 days of identity fundamentals. Today we'll be talking about federation, how it works in the identity and access management space. You all would have heard about federation, right? So whenever I'll just first explain them. There are two systems, system 1 and system 2. Like let's understand from the basic concept. If you want both the system to talk to each other, or if you see two systems talking to each other, that's primarily because a trust has been created, right? Then only they are able to know each other. And trust is because the systems are federated. Federation ensures that after exchange of some information, which we'll explore in the coming sections, you have built that trust between two systems. So basically, it's a mechanism that allows users to access resources and applications across different domains using a single set of credentials. Now, how is it possible? Let's say this is a user, and this user is going and logging in and accessing, authenticating here and accessing an application which is here. It is only possible when these two systems are actually talking to each other or have built that trust. Okay. So now, in the essence, federation establishes a trust relationship. That's the primary concept here between the IDP and SP, which we'll discuss in the sessions. Enabling seamless access for users without requiring them to manage multiple username and password. Okay. The federation is the backend logic. And what we achieve is what we'll be discussing. Why use federation? Like, what is the purpose? First, because now you will be able to log into multiple systems because of that trust. You're getting an improved user experience. It eventually enhances the overall security. Now you don't have to rely on multiple username, password, and you can use MFA. The second is it reduces the administrative overhead. Now the users do not need to manage multiple user accounts across many systems. Compliance. The overall idea of federation, again, we discussed about three pillars: security, compliance, and user experience. Federation definitely ensures security, but also compliance, because nowadays on the compliance side, application needs to be behind some federated system. Okay? And because there are multiple applications talking to each other, you're ensuring that there is collaboration. And federation is crucial for integrating, because nowadays if you have a system here, right, that system needs to talk to a cloud system, that needs to talk to on-prem system, or it needs to talk to some database, right, or maybe an AD system. Okay. So these systems, multiple systems need, it has to talk to multiple systems. So that's where, and to enable cloud adoption, you really need that overall premises. Okay, where the federation is enabling seamless integrations. These are the six kind of use cases of identity federation. So here I've just summarized this, where you can see cloud adoption, primarily improved user experience. It enhances security, reduces the administrative overhead, compliance and governance, and enables collaboration between systems. Now, we should all remember that when we are working on our projects, we need to understand why are we doing what we are doing. So for example, there is a project and you are being asked to maybe build a policy. You need to understand that why. Why do you need to build that? Is it because of user experience? And then you need to ask five questions. For whom are you building? What would be the access level? For which type of applications? For how long? And why are we giving this? If you're able to answer these questions, automatically any policy, you will automatically cover all the use cases. If you're answering the user, the access, what level of application, how long, the time, and the reason behind it. Eventually, going down to the five principle of identity and access management. Okay. Then let's talk about the key components. And if this is federation, right, we are now deep diving into the second layer, which where we talk about trust relationship. We have concepts like single sign-on, and then further pockets you have the protocols, okay, like SAML, OAuth, OpenID. So this is the federation. Eventually, what you're trying to achieve when you're creating that trust, you're achieving single sign-on. And when you, how are you able to do single sign-on? Using protocols like SAML, OAuth, OpenID. Okay, so that's how the layer are divided. Yeah. So first component is identity provider. Any system. So every time you log in using your username and password, on the backend there is an identity provider in most of the cases who's actually picking up a username and password and ensuring that they are valid. And after they are valid, the service provider is the one who's going to consume them and say, okay, I will provide the user access to the application, so let me validate it. Then, in order for these two to work, you need to build a trust relationship. A trust relationship is established between the IDP and SP, allowing the SP to trust the IDP's detail. I'll not talk too much on what assertions are, we'll cover them in the SAML world. Assertions is a statement made by the IDP to say, here is a list of things. So assertion could be a checklist saying, here are the list of detail. SP is sitting there to consume. Assertion comes through from the IDP. Okay. And IDP is able to consume it. And all of this is happening because of something called as protocol. You have SAML, OAuth, OpenID, and we'll discuss each one of them. Okay. So identity federation defines the communication standard between IDP and SP. Statement about user identities and attributes allows SP to trust the IDP's assertion, relies on IDP for verification. IDP is the one who's actually verifying. SP is the one who's consuming. And eventually that is happening because there's a trust. And that's where federation comes into picture. Eventually what they're doing, trying to authenticate the user and ensure that the identity is valid and they are who they say they are. So some of the common federation protocols that we'll be covering: SAML, OAuth, OpenID Connect, WS Federation. WS Federation is more of a Microsoft developed protocol for federated identity management. It is similar to SAML but uses different XML schema. Okay, but I've just skimmed through SAML, OAuth, OpenID because we are going to talk in detail about them. Now, how federation works typically? Yeah. The first is the user attempts to access a resource. How would they do? You'll simply go and click on a URL. You clicked on the URL, what happens? The application will say, here is the username and password screen. Enter them. You enter the right username and password, then it is on the backend validated with some system, in most of the cases Active Directory. Upon successful validation, a assertion is created, which has details, information about the user. This is sent back to the SP, where SP will pick few values and then say, grant the user access to the application. Fine, this is how it typically works. Now, what are the considerations that we have to keep? First, as an identity engineer, a lot of the time you will have to go through this discussion as to what is the right protocol. You need to enable the application team who's coming to you as a business analyst or as an IAM consultant or an engineer, and let them identify which is the best protocol. Okay. When the protocol is decided, then you need to establish that trust. Do the attribute mapping. Also, while doing the attribute mapping, there are some security consideration, implementing the appropriate security measures. Why are you doing all of this? So that user experience is improved. But at the same time, you need to ensure that monitoring and auditing is enabled and your system is able to scale from 1,000 to 10,000 users, even if the load increases. scalability, and their performance should not deteriorate. Okay. These are some of the conditions or key considerations that you can make while implementing an identity federation solution. And most important is definitely the compliance, because whatever we are doing, it is for the compliance reason. So to conclude, identity federation is a powerful mechanism by which you are actually ensuring that two systems are talking to each other. Once they are talking to each other, you have established the trust. Then you can give power to the users to log into a single system and access multiple systems seamlessly. And carefully planning and considering and looking at the key implementation factors are very essential for successful federation deployment. With this, I will end the session and I look forward to you in the next session. Thank you very much.